Hey guys, Marsingin here, bringing a Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video, and so today we are continuing on with our showcases of the sub EZAs that came out, that part of the Topo celebration, and we have the Agl Gotenks ready to go here today. So this guy has always been kind of an interesting unit. He's an AoE character with stuns, so always been very good for Super Battle Road, but he is also a time limit support unit. So obviously with a good EZA, he could be very beneficial to decent fusion units, especially considering, you know, we got physical Gogeta for the anniversary, and he does link relatively well with him as well. So if we take a look at what he does now post EZA, his super attack greatly raises defense for 1 turn, does supreme damage to all enemies with a high chance to stun. So obviously still doing the same kind of thing, really good for Super Battle Road, but he does greatly raise defense on the super as well. So of course that is still very beneficial in any kind of event. His passive, attack and defense 150, additional attack and defense 150, and performs a crit when facing 1 enemy. So in these more difficult events, you get a few extra, you get an extra bump to your stats, and you get guaranteed crits. So obviously he doesn't need any crit in the hidden potential. That kind of goes hand in hand with the kind of build you'd want him to have for Super Battle Road, where you want him to be doing an additional, so full additional for this guy, or dodge, some sort of mix of the two. But if you're taking him into any tough events against 1 enemy, he gets a guaranteed crit, so that's good. He gets the additional defense only and a guaranteed additional super when there's 2 or more enemies. So again, really good for these multi-enemy events. He gives time limit category allies 3 key and attack and defense 50%. So very strong support for time limit allies. And then he gets an additional attack and chance to evade enemy attacks 10% with each attack performed. So he doesn't start off with any dodge chance built in, but once he's performed 5 attacks, he would have a 50% chance to dodge. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. We didn't get a great first rotation on this team because we got none of our slot 1 units, but we're running him on the Int LR Super Saiyan Trio team. He only has a couple of 200% leaders. One of them is this Gogeta, which obviously is good because he's a movie hero character. He's a time limit support. Like I say, works really well with the physical Gogeta. But if you try and build a team, I wanted to bring a few time limit characters to show the support that this guy's giving. But when you try and build like movie heroes with time limit, there's not a huge amount of crossover. And obviously he links well with other Gotenks units, but like, I think the AGL one is the only movie heroes Gotenks, unless there is another one that I'm missing, but like this Int one obviously isn't. Once the Int one transforms, they'll be very good together. So 5.3 on the super attack, and then it goes up to 5.9 on the additional. So we did get the additional from the hidden potential. He greatly raises his defense twice. He was at what, like just under 300k start of turn. So I mean, this guy is... The thing to think about when it comes to this guy is he's going to have 2 different roles depending on the type of event that you take him into. If you take him into a Super Battle Road stage, which, I mean, he's on a decent few categories. You take him into a Super Battle Road stage, he's going to be getting a guaranteed additional super if there's more than 1 enemy. So then if you get the hidden potential, you could get 3 supers in a turn. Each of the super attacks has a 50% chance to stun each of the enemies, so you can essentially end up getting this guy to stun the whole field and giving yourself a very easy time. And so when it comes to that, we're not really worried about things like his attack stat. His defense obviously is going to be important if he is the unit that ends up like eating a super or something. But the thing that you have to think about is, in Super Battle Road, you know, you're potentially going to be getting all these stuns. You could have them as a floating unit, or you've got your unit in slot 1 that's potentially going to deal a lot of damage. I need to get Godku floated off, so I guess I should probably give you guys the orbs, and then we don't really need to worry about Goku because he's not actually getting attacked. So yeah, his use in Super Battle Road, he's there for the stuns. It doesn't really matter too much about if he's doing like really high attack stats, because he only gets the extra defense buff if you're fighting multiple enemies, whereas against a single enemy he does get the attack buff. So that 5 million attack stat was with him getting an extra 150% attack because you've only got 1 enemy. So in Super Battle Road, he's not going to hit super hard, but he's there for the utility of the stuns. Or the other way you're going to use him is as a support unit on some of these teams for some of these like big fusion characters, or these characters on the time limit category, because You know, even characters like Super Saiyan 3 Angel Goku from the Golden Week celebration is on time limit. He's a character that can hit incredibly hard, especially in slot 2. So if you have this Gotenks in slot 3, they share some links. He's giving him 50% support. So I think the way you have to look at this Gotenks is he's not the kind of character that if we see these sort of like low attack stats for him, that it's an instant like, oh, he's really bad, like look how low his attack stat is, because that's obviously not his role on the team, right? Like he's not here really in any of the two major like ways that you would want to use him. He's not there to do damage. In Super Battle Road, he's there to just stun the enemy, and in these other events, you're probably not going to be running him on main rotation. He's just there to support the rest of the team. So I do think additional is a good way to go for him. You want to build up that passive as quickly as possible. You saw like in the first turn we did get lucky, we did get an additional super, so he's got a 20% chance to dodge now, which is not anything particularly high. It's not something we'd want to rely on, right? Like we're not going to suddenly put him in slot 1 in front of a bunch of attacks because now he has a 20% chance to dodge, right? So we'll keep him together with this Gotenks though, because he is type advantage now. Although realistically, by doing this, in Gotenks probably just kills. So he's up to 300k defense. You're at 641. It's a shame we can't not get a super for him, because realistically, I would like to see this guy actually get some other attacks off and build up that passive. So is that with Gotenks, or are you getting an extra link? So he gets prepared for battle from the Super Saiyan trio, but he gets every other link active with this Gotenks. I might do this. Maybe we just throw out the item so we can get the extra attacks off, because we do want him to get built up. So let's throw up the Princess Snake. I mean, if he gets supered immediately in slot 1, he's probably just dead anyway. But we do have that 20%. Yeah, see, 77k. Absolutely not a slot 1 unit. But yeah, remember, he's building up his stats with each attack up to 5. We do get the additional from the hidden potential again. So now he has a 40% chance to dodge. So we get 1 dodge and 1 hit. Because remember, his super attack effect is only raising his defense. The reason his attack stat goes up with each of those supers is because he builds up his attack and defense and dodge chance with each attack performed up to 50%. So alright, so let's leave you guys. Well, we had to float off the other Super Saiyans, didn't we? So I don't want to end up with a double Super Saiyans rotation, so I guess I'll do this here. I'm not going to be able to get a lot of orbs for them, am I? I was going to say, unless we get a bunch of in-orbs spawn in at the end, so we'll take those. So yeah, Gotenks is almost fully built up. We got 1 attack left for the rest of his passive to be fulfilled, so we'll see what he's looking like on the next turn, start of turn. I mean, he's certainly nothing impressive in terms of like start of turn defense or anything like that. You obviously really want him to get those 5 attacks off as quickly as possible, but even then, like 50% chance to dodge is not something you're gonna hugely be relying on, right? But hopefully in his main sort of role against these tougher enemies where you're just using him as a floating support unit, you're not going to be getting too many attacks in slot 3. A lot of these bigger bosses have this high percentage chance to super as their attacks get placed out in the turn, so it is more likely that they'll super earlier in the turn. But of course, it's all RNG at the end of the day. Like, even characters who very often super in slot 1, I've had runs against like Beast Gohan, Ink Kid Buu, like where they do super attack you in slot 3. And obviously in those instances, AGL Gotenks is absolutely going to be relying on getting that dodge. Otherwise, he is going to take big damage. But we'll see how he's looking here on this next turn. Because the greatly raise on super is obviously very good. I guess there's an argument for building him either full additional or full dodge. Because dodge, if you build him full dodge, you at least have that little bit of extra dodge chance early on before he gets his attacks off. But obviously the more additional you give him, the more likely he is to get those extra attacks and build up the dodge from his passive quicker. So I think a mix of the two is definitely what you want. Crit is just definitely not something that he needs to have, right? Because he, in Super Battle Road, where he's not getting the guaranteed crit because you've got multiple enemies, he doesn't need to crit, right? He's there to just hit everyone with his super and stun them. And then against one enemy, he is getting guaranteed crits. So he's got 309k. So bear in mind he's going to get one more stack of another 10%. Oh, his only additional his attack that he gets from the build up, not defense. So that's why, again, that's why his attack stat was going up, but his defense doesn't actually go up any higher. So this is him 310k basically, with no support. So on super he gets about 150. So I mean, if we do get the double super turn, he gets 600k defense. But unfortunately, you have to think about the meta that we're in now with some of the enemies that we're fighting. Even their normal attacks are doing more damage than this. So obviously here at this point now, after he does his next attack, whether he gets an additional or not, that will be attack number 5. So his passive is fully built up, which means he will now have a 50% chance to dodge. But yeah, against some of the tougher bosses, like if he's not dodging, he is going to take damage from normals. And of course, he is going to take a lot of damage from a super attack. So I could see the argument for building him full dodge. Like, you're going to get those 5 attacks eventually, but obviously it's going to be annoying in some of the events that don't go as long if he's only getting 1 attack per turn. Because we got lucky, right? His first 2 appearances, he did 2 attacks, even though the second turn it was only an additional normal. But I mean, he gets up to about 7 mil when he's fully built up, so that's pretty good. And there's the dodge. So, I mean, in certain circumstances, like RNG kind of has to go your way a little bit, but in certain circumstances, he definitely can be solid enough. Like, you're running him on the team, he's giving support, like he's making these guys hit a lot harder. You know, your rotations, if we get like, once we get Blue Gogeta transformed, I mean, even in Gotenks, right, in his Super Saiyan form here, doing multiple supers, getting up to 15 mil, the physical Gogeta when he's transformed. Obviously none of the Z Vegetos count as time limit, it's only the later ones, but it's one of those things where time limit doesn't have like a really good, or even fusions anymore really, a really crazy full-on like build. But that's something that I could definitely see coming at some point in the future, right? Us getting a better fusions leader, a fused fighters leader time limit, something like that, where we're going to be able to run all of these fusion characters, and most of them are on time limit. And so then this Gotenks is going to be significantly more useful and providing support to everybody on that team. We just have to be a little bit worried about where he's taking hits. Like, I mean, you could play off the rotations. If you get a rotation against like a tougher enemy and there's like 1 attack in slot 2 and 5 attacks in slot 3, which is rare but can happen sometimes, it's one of those things where you kind of just have to call an audible and on that turn be like, okay, well, maybe I'll just put Gotenks in slot 2. And then, of course, you know, the RNG could still be that 1 attack in slot 2 is a super. And hopefully at that point his passive is built up and he gets the 50% chance to dodge. But, I mean, passive fully built up, we saw with his links active, he hits for around 7 mil, which is okay for, I mean, for a floating support unit. Getting up close to or even doing 10 mil, I would say, is good for a floating support. So 7.5 mil for him, pretty decent considering on the teams you're running him on, he will be getting links active. Obviously for things like, you know, lesser tier events, like things like Battlefield and stuff like that, he's going to be really good providing support as well as being able to stun some of these bosses. And then, yeah, obviously any Super Battle Road stages, I would say from this point, like any Super Battle Road stages that he can be run on that come out, he should probably be like an auto include on the team, right? Because getting a guaranteed additional super, a chance to stun all the enemies, like greatly raising on the super. Because that's the thing in pre-EZA, in some of these ESBR stages that have come out recently, he would still get hit quite hard if he had to take hits. But now with his EZA, the greatly raise on super, which he'll be guaranteed getting an additional, and then potentially getting a 3rd one depending on your RNG for the hidden potential build, he will easily tank normals from the enemies that he doesn't stun. So overall, I would say that AGL Gotenks is a pretty solid unit. Obviously, he's nothing like crazy, but he's giving these guys a pretty solid buff. I think, like I say, when we get a big new like time limit or sort of fused fighter kind of character leader, and we end up with this big team full of fusions, maybe we get like a new Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, or, you know, in Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta's EZA, like a new team we can run those guys on. The benefit of giving everybody on that team 50% attack and defense is obviously going to be pretty good. So AGL Gotenks overall, definitely an interesting unit. Super Battle Road must run, and then when it comes to difficult events, kind of is dodge or die, even against some normals from tough bosses. But overall, I would say he is decent. Continuing the trend, Dokkan recently, we haven't really had any like easy A's that are just straight up bad. Although I say that, and I haven't recorded the physical Super Saiyan 2 Great Saiyan Man one. That'll be next. People were saying when this patch came out on JP that he was the worst one, but I mean, there, Gotenks doing a bit of damage, guaranteed crit, and then he dodged the only attack. So ideally, that's what we want him to do if we're running him on the team. So let me know what you guys think of the AGL Gotenks down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Master Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out all the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.